All right, we're now down to the last step in our journey for building trust-based professional relationships with our customers. And the last piece is very, very critical. And I would say the one I think that's gotten much harder over the past 5 years, and that is the whole area of communication. Communicating proactively and interactively, both, so we're talking and listening, with all the decision makers and influencers, and convey how we're adding value to solving their landscape problems. Wow, that's a mouthful. That sounds like a whole bunch of BS. Let's talk about what's really underneath that. The fact of the matter is, in a lot of our customers today, two things have happened. One, a lot more people have gotten interested in the landscape services because they realize how much money it costs and how important it is to their business. So we have an elevation of layers involved. The purchasing decision is often moved upstream to include regional people, national people, et cetera. And in almost all situations, there's a lot more scrutiny. Second, it means the people that we're working with, no longer are they the only ones that need to be happy. It's the team of people they need to report to, that they need to be able to support what's being done on the landscape. So it's so critical that first we understand who we're dealing with, and that's why those relationship maps that we start up front in the, really two tools from the customer side tool guys. One, the communication logs, just to make sure you know and tracking who you need to be reaching out to. But second, it really starts with those relationship maps, so you understand in each situation who needs to be informed and who do you need to be listening to. We often use the example of the corporate campus, right, which is where we are today. And you sort of say, who's the most important person here? Well, the day-to-day decision maker is Pam Stark. She kind of manages the landscape crews, and she certainly is important. But we all know at the end of the day, the most important person is Bert, because he overlooks the landscape, he cares about it a lot, and he's our chairman and founder. So while the day-to-day contact is important, understanding also what Bert is looking for and his vision is very critical. Sometimes that can be done through Pam, sometimes that's done directly with Bert. But in every situation, you want to find the Bert Sperber, the guy in the corner office, the committee in the corner office, and make sure we're appealing to their needs and communicating them so they understand how their needs are being met. So what's the components of that? First, provide the information they need in a timely manner, in a format they find most useful. And this is where I think the business has got a lot more challenging. In the old days, you used to go on a customer walk, take some notes, and meet them again in a week, and you were kind of covered. Today, people want communication in a lot of different formats. The rise of electronic communications, a lot more people work through email now. Some people want to do it on walks. Some people want voice-to-voice communication. Some people just want you to leave a message and what's going on. Some people now have specific reports and service reports that we need to fill out to fulfill the needs of their organization. It is our job to understand what communication matters in the organization that we deal with. And every organization has a different style and culture. The second thing, we've got to equip that person we're working with day to day with the information they need to communicate with their constituents. One of these examples is in the HOA world. Right? We know that to the extent we can get items in the newsletter, communicate, blast out to the community what's going on in the landscape, it's going to help prevent problems. One of my favorite is dormant pruning. You own a new community and you do dormant pruning in the winter. If you haven't communicated, you can pretty much be assured that all heck is going to break loose and there's going to be a lot of problems. If, however, you get ahead of the curve, you can communicate that to the community, describe what's going to happen, you have a much better chance of getting through it without a significant blow up. You may have a few people that are upset, but you're going to be able to manage that much more easily. So, there's that old expression, no job's done until the paperwork's completed. I think in landscape today, right, we have to say no job's completed till the communication is done. Whether it's a walkthrough on a completed enhancement, whether it's sending photos of an upgrade or a completed snow service, whatever it may be, always think, what's the piece of communication that closes the loop, and make sure the customer got what they wanted, and if they didn't, it gives us a chance to discuss it and then maybe conclude and make whatever reparations we might need to make. All right, the second one here I've kind of already touched on, but get to the decision makers and influences. This may not be the person you deal with daily. And the art of the deal here is, it may be, if you're the account manager, it may actually be challenging for you to get to that senior level decision maker. One, they might not necessarily take your call. Two, the person you're dealing with may not look at it constructively if you're reaching over their head. And it's a very real thing. That's where you need to use the team that you work with involved. It may be your branch manager who can get access to that person, maybe your regional manager, it may be somebody else in the company. There are certain situations where I'm able to make connections with a senior person in the level. They'll take my call because I'm the president, and it helps open up an additional line of communication. No substitute for that day-to-day communication with the person on the property, but gives us the depth and range so that we know a little bit more what's going on, get a little bit more of a heads up, and we have a little bit more warning or heads up if there is a problem. It gives us more solution space. So think about that relationship map, and with your team, think about who can match up with which people in the hierarchy. Our job as Valley Crest is to mirror our customer's organization. If it's a one site, one person location, that's simple. If it's a large organization with 3 or 4 levels, we've got to work to make sure that that happens. Finally, and this is critical, allow no surprises. Always being the one bringing the news to the customer, good or bad. No one likes to bring bad news, but it is much better to be coming to the customer with bad news, either something that happened on their property or, hey, if we goofed or did something that wasn't perfect, we got to get right on top of it. I was on a property a couple weeks ago. We were doing a tree pull down and it swung the wrong way and we took off the front of a deck. Very embarrassing, quite frankly, but as soon as we assured our guys were safe, there was no injuries to people in the home, first thing we did is call the customer and let us know, here's what happened and here's what we're going to do to take care of it. And we had it, we had the deck fixed within a day, but simply put, always be the one bringing the news to your customer. Don't let them hear about or notice themselves issues on their landscape first. Always be the one letting them know. If you're setting up for a walkthrough and you're going to go on a job walk with them and you know there are things defective in the landscape, it's tempting to think, oh, maybe we'll go right instead of left and they won't notice. It's absolutely the wrong answer. That does not build trust-based relationships. What builds trust-based relationships is you sit with a customer, before you walk, I want to know there's 3 things you're going to see that aren't great. We really don't have the weeding done in this area and we need to get on it, and the fertility back on these shrubs is not where it needs to be, etc., whatever it may be. Lead with what's going on, let them know that you've identified it and then you're on top of it. That builds trust-based relationships. So this last category, item 5, it is about communication. It is almost impossible to over-communicate, but like everything, understand what kind of communication your customer wants, understand the people that really need to hear which messages, and making sure we're following up and making it happen.